coming to sit up on a couple of blocks. Something firm is often good. You can always put a folded blanket on top of that as well. So I'm really finding my sitting bones here. Yeah, and if you've got blankets around and you feel chilly at the beginning of your practice, you can always wrap that around you. So I'm just going to fold firstly one leg, simply like so. So heel just in front of that support, and then the other. And allow myself to come towards the front of that support, to be in the front of my sitting bones. And just give me a little stroke from the hips towards the knees there. So you can potentially, keep building up the height under your pelvis till you feel you're at a place where you can really drop down into the pelvis and the legs. The other thing you're looking out for is how it is here in the upper body. So if you still feel you're struggling to lift up through the thoracic spine, then a little more height possibly. Yeah. And yes, if your folded legs need some support from underneath, you can always tuck in pillows under them. So we're trying to create a really comfortable base, yeah, in which to sit. So we take away effort. And with less effort comes more ease. Great. That's it, Rose, looking better. Yeah. So, some of us have more holding through the pelvic area than others. It takes time sometimes for muscles, fascia, etc., through the area to begin to release, so give it time. Yeah. So the other option you have when the knees aren't resting on the ground is even to tuck pillows under them, if you had any handy. Yeah. The great thing about being, at home, is that we usually have quite a few bits and pieces around us. And where you have a bolster is a fantastic platform also. So I'm just allowing my hands to slide from the back of the waist over that pelvic rim, from the hips towards the knees. It's almost like a little self-massage, and I can even just circle my palms over the lower back. So in this colder weather as well, you might be feeling a little chilly around the kidneys. So below that waistline, you can get a nice rub, using the palms of those hands. Lovely. And then sliding the hands up and over and down towards the knees. Lovely. And then just let your hands settle at a point that the shoulders can release. So we want to find this place where we're not having to make any huge effort to sit beautifully. With less effort comes more ease. And that's a place that we want to reach within ourselves, that we are at ease. So just thinking about this beautiful ball-like shape of the pelvis, and those bony parts at the base that are our sitting bones, and you might just shift the weight a little back and forth, just to become more and more conscious of where your weight falls. And we're heading towards, a little more towards the front. And you might just be quietly aware of the shoulders shifting as you rock the pelvis. So ideally, we would be thinking of the shoulders, above the hips or even slightly in front. And what we don't want is them slipping behind. That's when we start to round the back and struggle. So we notice these things. And then as I look towards my hands and my folded legs, leaving the hands here, I'm just going to shift the majority of my weight over into this folded right leg and right hip. And then from there, shifting the weight forward and over to the left. And from that left leg into this left sitting bone, to the side of the pelvis, to the right leg. Left leg, left hip sitting bone, right hip sitting bone. So we get this simple round of movement. And within that, you can let your chin drop fully towards the sternum, so there's no sense of holding the head. And we can appreciate this rolling, shifting our weight through that base. So the head's not doing anything other than just resting forward as we shift the weight around. And then you might just pause here at the center, even coming onto the fingertips, appreciating the head wonderfully heavy here, just like we let go of it and not force it. And just taking a couple of breaths in through the nostrils and out through your mouth. Just beginning to tap into that thread of your breath. And as you next exhale, be aware of the gathering within the pelvic floor, into the lower belly, as you walk the hands in and have a sense of resting each vertebrae softly on top of the next till your head finally comes to rest. And just keep an eye in the neck area, the jaw, any habits you might have to overly lift with the chin or to just drop the head fully here. Get this sense of resting lightly here. So you're looking out to the horizon with your gaze. And then we can, again, just soften our gaze towards the earth, or indeed let the eyes close. And we return back to the simplicity of our breath. So just an invitation today, wherever we go, that we keep quietly coming back to our own breath. That wonderful rhythm that keeps drawing us back to ourselves. And we move into a place where breath and the movement are coming more and more into rhythm with one another. So just softening around space between our eyebrows, our forehead softening and widening. Into the jawline, just a sense of softening and releasing along the jawline. If you tend to grip in the teeth of the jaw, you might just take the tip of your tongue and touch the roof of the mouth just behind your front teeth. And that's quite successful in helping you to let go and gripping here. So the lips could just be slightly apart. And we just quietly observe our breath as it softly moves us. And you could just bring maybe your right hand to rest on that lower belly. So you can experience the breath moving in this area. As we exhale, it may feel your belly is drawing away from your touch. And when you breathe in, the belly moves towards that touch. And every soft expansion of the belly, soft and relaxed and at ease. The exhalation as the belly gently retracts. You can be thinking of the gathering from beneath. Pelvic floor awakening, just following the end of that breath. Inhaling, this is softening. So just take a few moments to feel that connection of awakening into our core in relationship to your breath. Within our exhalation, there is a natural gathering of these muscles, a sense of drawing up towards the root of the spine. And as we breathe in, softening, letting go. So the movement of the diaphragm of our pelvic floor is following the movement of our diaphragm here underneath the lungs. It is moving as we breathe. So as we exhale, this upper diaphragm gently helps push the air out. It draws the pelvic floor with it. As you breathe in and that drops, as our lungs and our belly fills, so does the pelvic floor soften. There's this wonderful mechanism, and these two diaphragm, almost mirror-like, are connected by long psoas muscles. So it can just be quite nice to feel a little into that awareness without making anything happen, just quietly noticing. And the other hand may just want to come and rest lightly in front of the heart. So now you can also have that real sense of inhaling, belly softening, but also that wonderful expansion into the chest, the ribcage area as well. And then the gentle retraction back to the spine as you exhale. And just by quietly noticing our breath, not trying to make anything happen, but rather just being closer to it, the breath will begin to deepen. It will flow a little freer. In our practice of yoga, one of the key aims or the most important things that happens due to our practice is this natural deepening of the breath. So we let go of doing and overthinking and just being in our bodies. It helps to create that release and that deeper flow of the breath, which we all need, especially in these stressful times. What a year 2020 has been. We've all held and carried so much. There's been a lot of holding in the body due to that. So we need this time to check in and give ourselves permission to soften and to release. Okay. And then just allow your hands to come down below the navel area. And we can put one palm in the very low part of the belly, just above the pubic bone, the other palm on top. And if you're comfortable with that, you could just let your hands move with the digestive system. So I'm moving from beneath the navel up past that right hip, moving up the ascending colon, travel across the top of the navel and down towards that left hip, the descending colon. And when we're doing any massage on ourselves, we can get the pressure just right. You know, if you prefer your hands to be still at any point, then let them just settle and be still. And we soften our emotional center. Just quietly be with what is. And then you can allow your hands to soften and just rest, palms up on your folded legs. And just notice how you're feeling in the base of the pose. Maybe you're feeling a little more release and a little more sense of dropping. But if you feel the desire to change the fold of your legs over, to give them a little stretch out at this point, do. Right? So that's for you to choose. And you can do that at any point. So let's just allow the chin to drop towards the sternum, and then just letting my head roll left ear to left shoulder. So then you might become more aware of this right hand side, and some tension possibly running down through that area, maybe into the shoulder, etc. And just bringing your right hand across, using the finger pads, just begin to work around the base of the skull here on this right side. And down this right hand side of the neck. And finger pads are wonderful. Again, you can just play with the pressure. You can rock into those finger pads, and they can listen and move and walk themselves over the area. Listen sensitively. So we find little pockets, maybe where the muscles are a little tenser, and then you might spend a little longer there. And just working your way down and working into the top of that shoulder now, from where you get quite a tense triangular area of muscle. I'm walking my finger pads quite firmly over that area. And then just giving it a little gentle squeeze with the heel of my hand and my fingertips, even coming into the top of the arm and back up. So and if you can reach, you can just give a little rub over the back of the shoulder, the top, and then just finding that collarbone, you can give a little rub along the top line. Again, it might feel a little tight here or not, but we're just feeling in to that area, and then coming along the collarbone, let's come and find beneath that area, so muscle, the tissue here, and again, quite nice to feel into that with your finger pads. If while doing that, this right arm needs to move or lift now, allow it to. Just getting a little underneath into that area. Okay. Lovely. And then just stroking down from the shoulder to the hand, the wrist. Okay, and then let your head gently roll through center, taking the right ear, that right shoulder. So now those finger pads just begin up here around the base of the skull, behind the ear, down that side of the neck. So anything I say is just a suggestion, a gentle guide. If you go elsewhere with this, you can use whatever feels good. Walking the finger pads, rocking into the finger pads, spending a little longer in any areas that feel they need it. The self-massage is a wonderful way of taking care of ourselves and taking that time to really practice self-compassion. Acknowledging all that we carry in the present, or particular struggles we may have in present, anything going on. Just an acknowledgement of that and being kind to ourselves. Okay, so I'm just going to begin to give a little rub along the top groove of that collarbone. And then coming along the whole collarbone area and into the sternum. Just let's give it a little rub, and then with my finger pads, I'm just starting to feel into the tissue here beneath. Walking those finger pads over there, and again, as I come here towards the armpit, for me, I'm just getting a desire, the need to want to move that arm, to even let the fingertips get a little bit more into the armpit area, maybe. Whatever feels good for you. Okay, and if you can reach, you might give a little rub over the back of that shoulder, over the front, and then just stroking down. Rub the hands together. The hands nice and warm, you can extra little rub. So rubbing those upper arms and down the forearms. Shaking out those hands. Lovely. Okay, so let's just give a little roll into the shoulders. Wonderful. And probably a good moment to think about stretching out your legs now. Okay. So, as and when you wish, you could bring one foot in towards you and leave the other foot away, and we'll just give a little rub into the feet as well before we move on. So I just want to give my feet a little bit of tension as well, the other end of the body. So just use both of your hands to feel into that foot. You can give a simple rub there over the top of the foot, the ankle. Just rubbing in to the sole of the foot, exploring the toes. And just literally warming up the foot if it feels a little chilly. No? So it can be quite nice to make knuckles with one hand and just give a rub over that whole central area of the foot. Yeah, so that correlates to our belly, the digestive tract. It's a good area to give some attention to. But just being aware that all our nerve endings end here in the soles of our feet. We can't do any harm, but we can often do lots of good, stimulating that whole area. And you might just want to run your thumb, almost walking the thumb pad along this inner arc of the foot. Towards the ball of that foot. I might just give a little rub over that more bony area. A little rub into that big toe. So sometimes as we walk the thumb along here, again, there might be little points of tenderness, where it feels a little bit rich. And if you can, just stay with that and just gently rock into it, work sensitively, and just have a little feel. If you want to, you can give each toe a nice rub front and back into the sides, and give each toe a little tug before you move on to the next. So we're just waking up our connection to our body here through using touch this morning. Sometimes we feel into this awareness when we initially rest at the start of class. On such a chilly morning, it can be really nice to find our way back to ourselves using touch, self-massage. It's so important. Again, I've just come over to my other foot. I'm just giving it a general little rub to warm it up first. Yeah, feels good. Once you give the feet a rub, if you want to put the socks back on for the time being, you can. So I'm just using my knuckles and giving a rub now of that central area. A nice way of stimulating many points over that area. And again, on this side, I'm just going to walk my thumb pad along that inner arc. So the inner arches of the feet correlate to the spine. And just having a look at the toes as well. So again, having a little rub front and back into the sides, a little tug. There are many things we can do. I'm just linking my fingers with my toes, so I'm just going to support that leg and just give a little roll into the ankle. So again, if you feel your ankles get a bit clicky, or there's a weakness there, quite simply get a little more movement in there. Right? It's quite a nice thing to explore. You can just get a little more movement into that ankle, and then link the fingers. If you want to do that on your second foot, do. And I'm just standing into this left foot now and just giving it a lovely rub all around the ankle area. So it's quite nice because we can actually look down at that foot and see it waking up. Right? Just a little movement into this right ankle as well. So just supporting that leg and roll. Standing into that right foot. Okay, so feeling a little bit more in ourselves now. I certainly am, I hope you are. Yeah. It's quite a nice way into our practice sometimes, and I think particularly in this colder weather. Yeah. Using a little self-massage at the start of practice can really waken up your awareness. Right? So if you're comfortable at having the heels together, soles of the feet tailor-like, you could just catch around the big toe, your first 2 fingers. And as you exhale, let's just think of the gathering of tailbone to pubic bone, sitting bone to sitting bone, that awakening within your pelvic floor. Yeah? As you push the heels together, and just see if you can feel is that connection all through the inner legs, in the ankles, in the knees, and the thighs. Maybe they're beginning exactly to waken up as you gather and draw up into the lower belly. And breathing in, just allowing all of those muscles to soften and relax. And then exhale and push and gather and lift and inhale. And you might even feel, you might not see it, but you might feel a little softening through the groin area, the hips here, and it may be that the knees move a little closer to the ground. Not by trying to force them down there, but just as you inhale, there's a little release in here. Lovely. Okay, so let's take ourselves around onto our mat, into all fours. And any issues with your knees, use a folded blanket. Chilly morns, keep that blanket close by, so that we can come to use it at any point. Get this direction. That's it, lovely. So we're just finding our way into all fours. And obviously we've been using our hands and rubbing our feet, so hopefully just come to this simple pose, you feel a little bit more able to connect there. As you feel the palms of your hands, the top of your feet, feeling their way into the earth. Feel the weight also through the knees. And letting the head relax, let it drop. Slide your shoulders, your shoulder blades away from your ears. They slide over the back of the ribcage towards the waistline. And then feel that dropping down through the lower arm, the heel of the hand. And we can just shift our weight a little back and forth. Simple, gentle rocking. And that might be a relatively small movement. It may grow into something larger. Maybe that momentarily the pelvis finds the heels. And inhaling, coming forward over the hands, the wrists, the feet might even leave the ground or not. So quite nice to let an out breath take you back into whatever level of movement back or a fold you find. And an inhalation to move you forward. And then just settling, if you can, into child. Do have the support where needed. If that's under your forehead or on top of your heels, just tuck it in. And we'll just take a few resting breaths here, allowing the softening to begin to happen through the back. Allowing those back muscles the opportunity to take a little break. To soften and let go of the holding. They're switched on all day long as we're upright and move around through our day. Because they're working hard to keep your spine upright, holding itself up in space. So here we can just give it some moments to let go of that having to hold the spine. Because here our spine is free to relax forward. Wonderful. And we can also then take a little time to focus the breath more into the back of the lungs, the lower part of the lungs. So we could picture as we inhale the rib cage expanding through the back, through the sides. And as we exhale, that rib cage draws back to the spine. It's a little like an umbrella, opening up around the spine and then closing back down. Okay, so with your next inhalation, you're going to move yourself from where you are back up into all fours. Just rearrange the hands, the knees. So they're supporting you well from beneath. And an avoidance of locking the elbow joints, to give a little softness there, this two-way movement. Below the elbow, planting down through the hand, and engagement here as the upper arms wrap back and guide the shoulder blades away from the ears. So let's keep our shoulders and arms as stable as we can throughout the simple movement of cat-cow. And actually, let's start with an inhalation, allowing our tail to grow and get quite perky, and some antlers to appear from the base of the skull. Right? And keep growing and lifting, so the tail and the head float up and away. And the whole front of your body can soften. You feel a contraction along the back of the spine, particularly around the waistline. And then on an out breath, we're going to begin to let the head draw, to let the tailbone tuck under, but gathering the pelvic floor in all directions. And gather, gather, gather till we're gathering into the belly, rounding up into our cat. Antlers pointing down, tail tucked under. And as and when we wish, an inhalation will roll us through from cat to our cat, lengthening the spine away two ways, from our head and tail and lifting, without creating tension in the neck. This is lovely soft lift of our gaze, rather than overly lifting the chin. So just play with that in your own rhythm, in your own time. As and when you come into cow or cat, if you want to hold it for a breath or two, you absolutely can. Just a reminder that it's an inhalation that moves us from cat to cow, and an exhalation that takes us from our cow back to cat. Exhalation is all about that gathering, being at the core, rolling on up and allowing the whole back of your spine to release. So don't overthink it, feel your way into it. Breathing out, the pelvic floor awakens, that's it, beautiful. Let go of our antlers, our gaze is towards our navel, beautiful. That's great. And when you wish, an inhalation will guide you. You start to feel a tailbone that wants to lift, lengthening through the upper spine, and some antlers maybe growing out of the crown, the base of the skull. Pop up. Just encouraging that lengthening of gaze. Just look softly up and forward. Lift, lift, lift that tail. Such a healthy movement for us to find within the spine. Keep it moving. Keep it young. When we're sitting and working at desks, drawing and writing, everything can get very congested in the spine, and obviously we can collapse a little into that slump where the back rounds and the chest collapses. So here we're helping our spine to re-find that healthy range of movement. So again, at any point, you just rest your pelvis back onto your heels or onto the support, and you can rest into your child. So on the next inhalation, once again, we'll just shift our way forward onto our hands and knees, but this time we're preparing to move into dog. So we'll start by tucking the toes under. Yeah? As we get those toes tucking under, we get a real flow there the base of the toes. I can send my weight back here, pelvis to heels, just to increase that stretch. Right? So these toes are tucked under. If you've still got socks on, this would be the moment to take them off, so you can really work those toes. And then you can come forward and release if you need to. So coming into dog, we do that from our hands, shoulders sliding down the back, finding that fold in the toes till a point where we feel from the hands and the feet we can lift our knees. So my shoulders are well behind the wrists. Come down and rest at any point. Right? So what we're avoiding is lifting the knees and tumbling forward. Let's keep the trajectory back, the tailbone back, till you feel that playfully you can let your tailbone begin to lift. So keep a lovely flex in your knees to accommodate that, to really find that lengthening from the hands, from the feet, the sitting bones moving apart, the tailbone lifting. So yes, maybe there's a moment when you feel the backs of your knees you want to open, but even then, stay up on the balls of your feet and come down and rest as soon as you need to. You know, the first time this morning that you go into dog, it may well feel a little stiff. We need again for the body to warm up, for it to remember the shape that is dog from the inside as well as the outside. We're not worrying. And the great thing is hopefully you're not distracted by looking to see what the pose looks like, but rather feeling it from within. So what we're working on in dog is to get that spine moving, lengthening, that lovely lifting of the tail. Wonderful. That's it. Beautiful. So keep reaching back through the wrists, through the shoulders, to that tailbone. Tailbone lifts. Knees stay flexed as long as you need. You can have a little play at pedaling the feet like so, where we just bend one knee and then the other, and feel that shifting, the pelvis as well. Nice. And then yes, if the backs of the knees do yawn open, again, still just stay up on the balls of the feet. Don't be in a rush for heels to touch ground. And again, of course, they might not do that for a long time yet to come. And as always, when you need to, you come down and you take a rest. So by the third or fourth time that we come up, it should feel more lively, more fresh. So avoid staying up in dog to that point that you just tire. Take a rest, listen in. How did it feel? Where were you struggling or not? Where were you enjoying? Where did you feel a release? And each time you go back into it, you go into that attentively, really listening to what your body's showing you. Each time, it's like the first time. Our palms touch the earth, the spreading of the fingers. Maybe for you, the hands want to be a little wider, you want to turn the fingers a little more inwardly. You can play with all of these things. Check in, shoulders sliding back. Tucking those toes under. And then I send the pelvis way, way back, and then from there that tailbone lifts. And this is just an invitation if you want to give it a go today. I think we'll do the simplest version first, and I'm not sure that either of you will be happy in full plank then. So what we're going to do is, if we're going into plank, so I look forward to my hands, step one hand forward, then the other, keep my pelvis high initially, and then as I come to bring it forward, straight away I'm thinking bend one knee and then the other. That's it. And come back, toes tucked under. And come to that once more.
So that's where you'll go. As we come forward into the plank, you will bend one knee then the other, unless you feel really confident in your core. So I can show you where that eventually goes. Is to find that diagonal. So this is strong work through the shoulders. Really keeping wonderfully awake through the core muscles, but not overly holding it. If you do hold it for a moment and you start to struggle, remember, straight away, the knee down, then the other. You can relax and rest on the front of the feet, and then you can just have a little play at softening and bringing the front of the thighs to meet the ground, then your belly, then your hands, and rest your head to one side. And take a pause in prone position, laying on your belly. Really notice the breath in your belly, how it's been gently massaged as it moves into the mat. Lovely. Okay. So we're not staying there long. Again, it's just a reminder of a resting place that we can visit at any point. Right? I'm going to tuck my toes under again, slide the hands back, push back and through, bring myself back into all fours. Okay, so from here, we're going to explore pigeon. That we've done for a little while. So you can always observe first. I'll show it with my left leg first so you can see where the foot goes and the knee, and then I'll do it on this side. We'll all do that together. So from here, now, I just allow my left knee to move towards my left wrist, and then I bring that left foot more in front of that right hip. Right? And then I begin to slide that right leg back. So I just wanted you to see it from that side, so you see where the foot was, etc. And now I'm just going to slide that back through, and then we'll all do it together with our right side. Okay, so from here, I'm bringing my right knee towards that right wrist. Then I slide my left foot over. So this front leg doesn't have to be straight. There will be an angle to it, but it's going in front of that left knee thigh. And then from there, I begin to slide that left knee back. So if there's any pressure in the knee, maybe we can always put extra padding onto that. Now, it may be, quite quickly, this starts to release and comes closer to the ground. But if it stays quite high, this would be a moment that you would have a block, a pillow, a blanket that you're going to put under here. So if I'm here and that stays quite a distance from the ground, you just get something underneath it to support that. So you're not worrying about that having to rest on the ground. Because if you do and those muscles are tight, it will usually just pull you over to that right side then. And we want to keep the pelvis stable at the front. Okay, so you can always have a little look, just checking in how that all feels, and then I can think about coming down onto my forearms. Again, if the block was in front, that might be something that the forehead comes and rests on, or you might need a little more height. And I'm just spending a few breaths here, so that the fascia muscles here over on my right, through that right hip and thigh, can begin to soften and release. And then I have a sense with that release, coming to rest on the floor. But that's not by tilting my pelvis over here. And then keep nicely balanced. So if you need to keep something underneath that right hip, do. Imagine you both probably need that. Okay, and then you can come up onto your hands, even your fingertips.
And we can explore, right? Just lengthening up through the upper spine. So again, to protect your lower back, you're exhaling, you're gathering from beneath into that pelvic floor, up into the lower belly. Then the upper spine is able to lengthen. And you can play with where the hands are. Yeah? They may need to stay more in front now. They may end up coming in quite close to you, all dependent on how it feels in your lower back. And just breathing maybe into the release you might be feeling into in the front of that left hip, as well as what's going on through the right hip and thigh. So we can be there, we can breathe, but as soon as we need to, we can fall forward again.
If you've got a bolster, you may have brought that around to rest your forehead, chest, etc. on.
It's quite a powerful stretch, but a wonderful way of really softening and opening up these hips. We're very congested with all sitting on chairs that we do. And as you breathe into that and allow muscles to begin to soften and release, you might feel a warmth spreading through that area.
If you wish to, you could come back up onto the fingertips again. So I've got my fingertips in preparation. I exhale, I feel tailbone, pubic bones, sitting bones gathering up into my lower belly, pushing down through the finger pads, lengthening up through the spine, enjoying that lifting through the heart, shoulders sliding down, gaze is soft. So looking softly up with my gaze. And there are many variations from here where we can start to lift the back leg, catch hold of that foot, etc. But we're not going to go there today because this is maybe a little unfamiliar for you. Let your body get familiar with this pose. You can have a little play with this over the coming week if you have time. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just rock and rest my weight fully into that right leg. And then from there, you'll be able to see I'm just rocking through. What I can do quite nicely here is then just bring myself around the other end of my mat. And preparing the second side. But firstly, I might just give a little rock back and forth, and then I can just begin to move that whole pelvis. Give it a lovely roll a few times in each direction. And then when you're ready, just look forward to your hands, and then we're going to slide this left knee towards left wrist. So to slide this foot now over to the right, and your hand can help to move that if it needs a little support. And then we begin to slide back that right leg. And make sure that you're resting fully through the front of that kneecap. And do get support under that back knee if it feels vulnerable in any way. Okay, and so again, this could be, we take that cushion or pillow, place that where you feel space under that left hip and thigh. So we prevent it rocking over to that side. We want to keep the pelvis nice and square. And here I might just look forward for a moment, just feeling into that left hip. Lots of stretching going on. Now it's to know the difference for ourselves between stretch, releasing into muscles, and sharp pain. We never move towards sharp pain, but if it's just like a bit of a soft burn, the sense of muscles being stretched, then breathe into that. So if you're happy to, then you come down onto your forearms. So use props if you need them. So again, if I have a bolster, which I do, I could always use this if I didn't want to go all the way down onto the mat. And actually that feels pretty good. And keeping an eye on that back leg, back kneecap. So if I can just be here and breathe, these muscles begin to soften, stretch, and let go. And then when you wish to, you come onto your fingertips. You exhale, feel the lower back lengthening, the gathering from tailbone, pubic bones, sitting bones, lifting up into your lower belly. And see if we can let then the upper spine lengthen, lift and open across the chest, lifting your gaze and shoulders sliding down. And then again, at any point, you can just find that fold. It's nice to fall forward at least a couple of times. That's where you can just really focus on the softening and the releasing here on the left-hand side. And yes, often there's little wriggles you want to make, little simple adjustments. Don't fight them, do them, go towards them. If you're happy to come to the fingertips again, heavy head. Pelvic floor awakens, that lift into the lower belly, sliding down our shoulders, opening of the chest. So I've got the hands, pretty close to me actually, but it may well be that you need to have your hands much more forward, like so. It's all dependent on your lower back and how that's feeling. So only bring the fingertips in much closer if you can work with that. So where we will potentially head to, time is where we can then catch hold around that back foot, but that's once you can really be in this front left leg. But there's no worry about going there. This is the key part of this pose, opening up these hips. Okay, and then I'm going to, again, just let all of my weight drop into that folded left leg, and I can just string the leg around. I can come and take myself to sit with legs in front. So again, if you need the edge of a cushion or a rolled up mat, that would be good. And from here, I'm just going to find a fold in that right knee. So we can come here. So maybe I'll just come to the side. So this is what we're working towards, stuff pose. But again, if you need to have a little roll, a little bit of height under the pelvis, or even a soft fold in the knee, that's fine. So working with what you have. And then when we draw up, that right knee coming into that right foot. Really enjoy getting into this. I'm just deepening that fold, having a lovely hug around that and planting down through that right foot. And it's nice because you can see it. So you can make sure it feels alive, as well as planting down through the heel and across the ball of the foot. You've got that sense of lifting up through the inner arch. And of course, we send that left heel away. From the back of the soft and open left knee. The left thigh that is drawing itself back into that left hip socket. And I'm going to keep this right arm hooked around the front of that right knee. Like so. And then just take the fingertips, the left hand just behind me. So again, watch out, don't lean back and collapse into that. Keep that upward trajectory. Push into those finger pads if you need a little bit more help with that lift. And then we can just take our gaze over that left shoulder. And we may get a little change in position of the hand as possibly we deepen into that rotation of the spine. And breathe.
to the center. Release that leg if you haven't already. No? You might just give it a little rock. Again, just refinding those sitting bones. Okay. And then I'm just going to move my left forward with my left knee. And if I can, bring it in as close as you feel you can work with that. So it might need to be a little further away for you initially. Let's see. I'm just beginning with hugging that left knee in towards my chest, finding from that a little more help with that lifting up out of my waistline. And if you notice the right leg's fell asleep, by again taking your gaze there, you're reminded of that. You feel the back of the right knee open, you send that right heel away, the right thigh drawing back into that right hip. So that right leg is alive. It's as if we were standing. And then I can keep that hug with the left arm and just bring his fingertips just behind me. So begin that little rotation through the chest to the neck as that shoulder blade rolls back. And the longer we're here, the deeper possibly that rotation becomes. So as you breathe here, really feel that expansion laterally into the lungs. Can also, we didn't on the other side, but I'll just do it on this side. It's just a little reminder, and you can always play with this, to now bring the right arm across and then take the left hand behind. And then you really have to find that gathering into your core, drawing the belly back and up, and then we get that revolved. So that brings a deep rotation into the belly area. So quite a nice massage for the digestive tract. As soon as you wish to, you release. Try and get that image of your spine throughout any of the rotations as always staying upright, that you're turning on it, so not letting it lean off to the side or back or forth. Rotations always spinning around that central column. So let's come and bring our feet back into Taylor for a moment. So garland pose, and I'm sending my feet at least 2 hand spans away from the pubic bone, heel and pubic bone, so that we can now just find that little fold. Right, so let's just rest your elbows maybe on the inner knees. Drop the gaze a little, and just looking towards the feet and coming back to the breath. So the more that we keep coming back to the breath, you might start to find Ujjayi breath, that quiet place where the breath is creating a sound that only you can hear, where you just restrict that breath slightly at the back of the throat, by the back of your tongue just coming up to the roof of the mouth. So as you breathe in and out, you might hear a little rasping sound as you just slow that down. So during that exhalation, you can really feel the belly contract, and that in turn helps me to deepen into that fold. Don't worry if you can't go very deeply into this. That might be a moment for bringing in a bolster. So, for sometimes, and after practicing for some time, you will be able to deepen more fully into this. But it's also beautiful to practice with support. So just go to a limit that works for you. One option is to possibly have the bolster like so, and then I can rest my forehead there, and the arms can just hang over, and that's quite nice. And again, you would just find a point it needs to be up higher now. If it was too much, even coming to here.
So you can play with that. It feels really nice feeling the weight of that on my feet here. If you ever really struggle or you just want a softer release, the bolster on the inner feet there, and then just letting my forehead come and find a nice resting point. And that's beautiful. Maybe on a day that you feel a bit headachy and you don't feel the desire to fall more deeply, you can just hang out here. There's always a variation, particularly if you've got a couple of nice props around as well. Okay, so wherever you may be, within that fold, you can just begin to unwind. Obviously, the longer we're here, the more we can release along the back. And coming up, I do so again from my base. So I feel the pelvic floor gathering from all directions. I feel the gathering and lift into my lower belly. I can just roll up, hands sliding up towards knees. And we come to sit. So from here, I'm going to take probably a block and just bring my pelvis up onto that. We've done quite a lot of opening in the hips, so I'm not feeling the need possibly some of you to go as high. It might even just be a folded blanket. And just simply cross your legs. And we'll just do a little seated movement work. Okay. So let's just begin by touching the ground lightly with the fingertips. Get as much support as you need. If you're not that comfortable, you might need to come a little higher the pelvis or tuck things under your folded legs. And if you prefer, you could unfold the legs and have the legs extended and wide. So I'm just going to move into the lateral stretch first, the spine. So just opening up that right hand. And just following that up, up, up. So just start to appreciate this lift and lengthening out of the right hip, all up through that right side. Taking my gaze to this left hand, which I'm going to walk a little away and see if I can come down onto the palm. Keep rooted through that right hip and right folded leg. Keep the shoulder blades gently drawing back. And give yourself time. So again, if you don't enjoy the arm being here, it feels not particularly helpful or good, it's creating too much tension, you could bring your hand and just support the back of your head like so, and see if you can work on the right elbow that might be dropping forward, seeing if you can focus on lifting that elbow, and that will create beautiful opening work through the armpit. And again, if that gets too strong, you need to ease out a little. You can always just release the arm and remember dropping that across the back of your waistline. Still got that lovely opening across the chest. We're still working on this release through the right. You can move back and forth and go to the full diagonal if we're happy with that release. So just find your range. Supporting the head, lifting the elbow or arm resting across the back is helping you find more openness and release, and that's where you should be. Your body. And then just going to roll my gaze towards that left knee and let that right arm float down. Bringing myself back to center. And the second side, roll with the shoulders. And again, just inhaling, left hand now. Remember, we're reaching from the spine. Feel these wings awakening. Lifting up, 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 up. Right hand might need to stay in the fingertips now, or you might be happy to go into the palm. Keep that shoulder blade rolling back and down. So the outer shoulder of this top left arm that is extending. And it may well feel very different from one side to the other. Maybe you go further and not so far. And again, the options. Cradling the base of the skull to keep the back of the neck long and work on that lifting and opening the armpit. Or taking that arm and resting it
That's the back of your waistline. And most importantly, breathe and feel that breath moving into that left side. And when you wish, just softly roll the torso towards the right folded leg, left hand comes down, sliding right hand across. And we'll just pause here. And let the hands go a little further. You might want to deepen that fold momentarily. And as and when, just sliding back in from your roots, gathering up into the lower belly so that you can bring yourself tall once more. Lovely. Okay, and you can just open up your legs for a moment. Yeah, the thighs are rough. And then from here, right hand in front, left hand behind. And just come into your finger pads, lift up, up, up out of your waistline, and just taking simple little rotation towards the left. Keep the feet, the legs alive. So every now and again, a reminder, the backs of the knees yawn open. Heels extend away. Lift up into your core. And then when you wish, just let the arms float on up, spiral-like, moving around the body. Allowing you to find that rotation to your right. And breathe. And release. Okay, so I'm going to bring my knees together and just come to sit. Either you can come sit, feet together, let the heels drop out, and you can come and sit in that space between your heels, which might feel very comfortable, but you might still need a little cushion on top. Right? Or letting your feet come apart and placing the bolster or a couple of blocks between your heels so you have more height. So whatever works for you. Okay, lovely. And just do a little work with our wings. So remembering this lovely unit that is our upper back, the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the hands. Just beginning with that roll, and then going to sweep the arms forward, left elbow over right. So cross my elbows, right? The lower one lifting up, the top one pushing down. So we create that hook, right? And it could be that you just come and hold around the shoulder blades, and that is enough. Yeah? But if you can, and come back into that hook, that little resistance, you see if you can bring your palms together. You could even just hold the top, for me, left thumb with that lower right hand, and that gives you another little hook. Right? So we exhale, we feel that weight return back to the pelvis, the legs, the earth. We inhale, and feeling that lift up out of your waistline. And the exhale, as we plant down through our base, there's also that sense of gathering. So the core is always here and supporting us. And the inhalation is a wonderful reminder of all the length we can have. You can stay here, but it may well be that you can explore letting the elbows float higher, not the shoulders as well. Shoulders sliding down, elbows maybe moving up a little higher. And that just increases the stretch across the back of the shoulders. If you've already released, that's not a problem. You can be quite strong. At any point, you can release. Shake out the arms, give the shoulder a little roll. If needed, stretch out your legs. Remembering when we're kneeling, it's often a good idea to release. Come back into whatever version of kneeling is working for you. And again, just begin with a little shrug through your shoulders. So as you come forward this time, in that wonderful sweeping range of movement, right, you just make sure, right, that you take the opposite elbow on top. So yes, for me this time it's the right elbow on top of the left. So now I can catch hold of my top right thumb with my lower left hand, opposite to where I was before. If it gets too strong, it's too much of a struggle, if it's throwing you really off kilter, come to here and just hug your shoulders. Doesn't have to happen today, no, it'll happen one day. So here's beautiful. This is just opening up all of my upper back. No? But when you do get to here, it's another stage. Try and keep the hands lifting up. You can always rest your forehead onto the fingertips. And if you wish, if the range of movement is there, as I exhale, feel the weight returning to my base, at the same time that gathering of the core. And the following in-breath, that lengthening up through my spine, I might just explore letting the elbows spread higher. Not the shoulders, just the elbows. And just breathing into that release. A few breaths. You can let go, unwind at any point. And again, that might be a moment to sit and pull a little stretch. Okay, so we're going to make our way down onto our back. And before going into Savasana, let's just do a simple rotation. So I'm making my way down onto the back. And let's just take that right foot onto my left thigh, arms out, and just give it a little roll towards that right hip. Just a little release. Back to center. Extend that left leg away. Slide up the right foot. Left hand to right knee, right arm, shoulder height. And just give it a rock. Just a lift hip. You can rock in and out of that. To the point where you feel happy to maybe just be there for a couple of breaths. At that point, if you feel happy to, you might extend the legs fully into Savasana. You need to do a little bit more laying twists. You get support under your knees, etc. This might be the moment when socks go back on, blankets come out. Whatever is needed. And just allowing yourself to fully rest into the space. Feeling your imprint resting into the ground. Give yourself permission if the lower back doesn't settle to work with knees bent, easy pose. It's always your choice. And particularly at this point in your class today when you want to fully relax. Oh my God. So just let your focus be in the muscles of your face. Picture them softening, particularly around the eyebrows. All the muscles surrounding your eyes softening and releasing. Maybe just bringing the chin a little closer to your sternum, a little more length through the back of the neck. And soften along that jawline. Softening the mouth. You feel any gripping, just touching with the tip of your tongue, the roof of the mouth behind those front teeth. And letting the breath softly move through you. And just quietly noticing as the breath travels up and down the body, those resting points. Feeling the imprint of the backs of the shoulders, the upper back, the arms, elbows, wrists, etc. Any of those resting points. Just appreciate and notice them. Coming back to the spine and then moving into the rib cage itself. And again, just noting points along the thoracic spine, thoracic spine, the rib cage. Those resting points. And above and below that area, the space at the back of the neck, the back of the waist. And feel your awareness is within the pelvic region. And again, just feeling the weight, heavy pelvis, the muscles here, resting deeply into the earth. And then any further points as you travel down through the legs, the back of the thighs, the calves, the heels. Or if the knees are bent, the soles of your feet. Appreciating and being in these points of contact with the earth beneath you. Resting ever more deeply into the earth's embrace. And now and again as you inhale, just appreciate and enjoy the softening that brings. A wonderful, gentle expansion into what is. Meeting yourself where you are today. Taking this time to listen deeply. What a gift. Over the coming weeks, I think we all need to claim a little space and time for ourselves, even if it's just a pocket of time. 10-minute break, 5 minutes, if we're lucky 15. Where we might move the body, rest the body, or just simply breathe. Just gifting yourself that space and time. Deeply rest. So in your own time, let your awareness re-enter the space all around you. The eyes may open a little. You don't rush to look. It's just a sense of light and space. And in your own time, you begin to maybe move the feet and the hands. A little movement back, a little more awareness into the body. You can start to think about bringing the knees in towards you so you can roll with more ease over onto your side. And you can rest there. Take all the time you need before you come to sit. We're just sitting briefly to end the session today, so kneeling, cross-legged, whatever you find most comfortable. So bring your two palms together. Let them rest in that area in front of the heart. And we can just drop our gaze. So always taking this moment at the end of our practice to have deep gratitude to ourselves for making the time, being here today. And thank you for coming and sharing the practice with me. Thank you. Thank you.